Hey, Myra.
Hello. Good morning. It's morning.
It is morning. We don't usually record this early.
No,
But hey, all the technology is working today, so I'll take it.
it's all working and we're alive
Oh,
and
yes.
I'm recording. This is the day after Halloween, so
Oh, yes.
I've
How
had
was
a
Halloween?
it was good. I don't know what's happened to us as a society, and I'm one to blame too, I guess. But I remember doing maybe like one event, maybe not even a pumpkin patch back in the day. I don't even know if they
Uh-huh.
had pumpkin patches. And then you go trick or treating on the Halloween night, right? Or like, if you're a part of an organization, whether it's religious or like the Lions Club or you know what I mean? Like some of those little organizations would do pockets of events back then. And now it's like I think I went somewhere every single night this week and I'm tired. I'm so tired. By the time Halloween came around, I didn't even care that it was Halloween.
Yeah.
And like this whole month, we've done little things here and there. I don't know what it is. I think, and don't get me wrong, because I know a lot of people that overdo it. And it probably sounds like, oh, well, Myra's overdoing it. And I probably did overdo it this week a little bit. But I only really say yes to doing some of these events if I find them like truly valuable, useful, fun, because I do want to make memories with my kids and I do want
Yeah.
them to have experience. And I believe in experiences. I believe in doing new things and trying new things. And it doesn't have to be like going to Disney World every day, or something like that. Like it could be just going to the pumpkin patch or going here or, little activities. And so this week was one of those, though, where it's just like I asked myself, at what point is this serving me and the children? Or at what point are we just serving society? Like
Hmm.
this is just
Yeah.
a lot. But last night my plans changed and I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just going to jump right into our topic. Maybe this will lead me there, but my plans changed last night. I had this, like, I'm not one to be super rigid with plans and events and
Yeah,
timelines.
you're pretty fluid. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that
Mm-hmm.
person, and truly it's whatever works best for everyone. We'll get there
Mm-hmm.
when we get there and we'll have a good time. Like, I really do believe, like, if I show up at 4:30, if I show up at 5, it's not going to make a difference because that is what it's meant for us and to happen will happen in that timeline, right? And so I'm not super rigid. I get a phone call from a family member. Well, she's not my family, I guess. A once removed family. I mean, the mother of some
Sure.
of some of the children in my lives.
Yeah.
Her plans were changing very rapidly, right? She had something unexpected with her father, very serious to her in the moment. And I told her in the moment, I said, hey, I know a lot of people that's had this procedure and it's been a very successful and very good for them. So like, I know you're worried in the moment because you can't see past your panic, but
Yeah.
it's going to
Yeah, of
be
course.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, you're going to be fine. Like, it's really okay. And so, um, but I did have a human moment where I'm like, gosh, here I go. Like, I had plans. Now, they weren't super rigid plans, and that's okay. But I'm like, God, I had plans, and I was going to meet up with people for me. And then now, because I added more people, I was going to have to take 2 cars. Like, that stinks. Like, if anyone out there has driven children around on Halloween, when you have 1 car's enough, okay? Like 2 cars makes it even worse, right? And so then it's like a caravan of people, and trying to wade, yeah, through all the
Yeah.
like chaos and fun and whatever. But I know that this experience was continuing to teach me flow, right? Like, okay,
Yeah, for
if
sure.
I'm
Hmm.
calling in flow and I'm calling in, really being in alignment with the universe and what's serving me in that moment, this needed to serve me in some way that I just couldn't see in that second. And not even just me, but the children involved and even the person asking for help. And I was even thinking, like, why are you calling me? They have they have like 500 siblings and nieces and people, like they have adult sibling or like
Uh-huh.
very adult nieces with it's a
They
very
have other
massive.
options.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, like they have way more options than I do. I mean, I have like 2 people I can call upon and they're asking me and I'm like, okay. So once I got over myself, I'm like, okay, let's just do what we needed to do. And I
Hmm.
told her, I don't know the last time I've told this person I love them. They've been out of my life as a, in quotations, family, label in the labeled sense of family. Oh, balloons. So, okay. They've been out of that for,
Just because of
oh
a
God.
divorce, that's
Yeah,
still, I
that's
get
all it
it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been like 7, 8 years. I mean, honestly, I think it's actually been a little longer than it's been a long time. okay, it's not been, and it's been a very interesting road due to their partnerships that they took on after, like very
Mm-hmm.
strict abusive relationships where it's like you can't speak to these people, you can't look at these people, you know,
Oh my. Yeah,
whatever.
I
Yeah,
totally
very
get it.
whatever,
Yeah.
controlling, very controlling. So
Yeah, controlling. Yeah.
yeah. So I told her, you know, I'm like, you know what? I love you and I do care for you and I love these children more than the moment than any other than asking for the favor. It's not a favor. Like this isn't a favor. And I think, you know, in that moment, that's where breaking it down, it's not a, if you love someone and truly love them and you truly love someone unconditionally, which I do love these children unconditionally, right? This isn't a favor. This isn't a burden. This isn't a task. And so rewiring my thoughts in that moment, just telling her that I loved her and I loved the kids, I could feel my sense of like the drama part go away. You know, like it
Yeah.
just was gone. The chaos, the drama, the whatever. And
The inconvenience.
yeah,
Mm.
like it's gone. And so, you know, I told her, I said, you know, but I will say this now that they're in my care, I'm going to take control of what we're doing the rest of the evening. And they're just going to be in my care for the evening and the night. And then we can reconvene the next day. There's no reason to make plans in the moment now. Like now that they're mine in my court, I'm going to take over. And she's like, great. And I said, perfect. Because that's what's going to happen. Like, you know, we're not going to do this weird back and forth thing. And also too, in that moment, yesterday I had a lot of gratitude and I thanked my husband last night before we went to bed. I said, you know, I'm really grateful for our relationship because without hesitation, without question, he immediately acted and went and picked up all these children, you know, and like a lot of, I don't want to say a lot, I'm aware that they're not equal relationships to that extent, that there are not equal partnerships where I just added a whole bunch of children, you know, like we went from our 2 to 4. And that's not a
Yeah.
lot for some people, but, you know, we just added all this in. We added now taking 2 cars, you know, like there's a whole lot of change happening. And without question, without concern or doubt, he acted and just went and did it and didn't complain and was happy with it and hung out and had fun. Like one of the kids didn't have a costume, so he went and helped them make a costume. And like I just was in a lot of gratitude last night in my relationship, my partnership, because I don't like how cool is that in that moment that these children have no other idea of what's going on behind the scenes. Like they just know they're having fun on Halloween. Like they don't need
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
know
With the
that Grandpa
slipping.
Joe or whatever, you know, is not doing great and they don't need to know. I mean, they kind of assume they're older, you know, and they knew because they were with them the night before. But we're like, no, it's fine, bro. Like, it's cool. But they don't need to wonder, like, my uncle's going to be so mad that I'm here, you know, or my aunt's so mad. And like, there was just without question that they got to go and have that experience and have a great, and it was a wonderful night. Like we hit up a downtown area, we walked to the homes, we actually did the door to door thing without driving
Hmm.
everywhere. We just walked. And then when we were walking, it was a more historical part of the downtown community we were in. And right behind it was this big church and they had this massive parking lot of trunk or treat. So I mean, gosh, we hit up a trunk or treat. Like I've never seen so much candy in my life. Like if your goal was candy, like, and this was happening, but the rest of the evening just continued to unfold with love because like as the evening progressed, like we've got all these different kids. I had my friend and her aunt, you know, like there was just
Yeah. A
different
whole
people.
crew.
We all, yeah, there was a whole crew of us. And
Hmm.
you know, we all had some sort of connection, but like no one questioned the children, but age ranges of these children were very different too. But the olders were helping these youngers. Like that night, I got a text too where one of the ladies was like, I don't know who the boy was. And she said, but he was so nice to my son. And he won't stop talking about how much fun he had with this boy and the trick-or-treating, and he gave him a lollipop and he just helped him and he played with him and he made him feel comfortable. And that was my nephew he's
Mm.
11 years old and he made it his responsibility to help this 3-year old that he doesn't even know have the best time of his life. And you know,
Hmm.
I got really emotional. I want to, you know, right now I want to cry. Like it's just like these children don't even know their own circumstances of what's going on around them, but they made it their mission to make everyone else feel really good that night too, even people they didn't
Hmm.
know. And like to me, that's love. Like that's
Yes.
true love, that's true compassion. And like without me being dramatic and you know, and the human side of it, like last night in gratitude, it was just like, wow, I'm so lucky to even know these beautiful souls, to
Hmm.
be so kind, compassionate for others, and like to have just the best experience that they could have. And how lucky am I that I got to be the one to help take them on this experience. I'm glad they were with me instead, truly. And I think they probably had a better night and a better evening than they would have had otherwise, truly.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with
So
that. Yeah.
this is, you know, when I met with Tris this morning, I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about, you know, because I'm in monkey mind and I've got 100 children running around, right? And Draco jumped in the shower with his clothes on this morning, so I took 3 showers, you know. So like, it's just happy morning, right? But yeah, like I think this fits perfectly with what I think Tritza and I agreed to talk about. Like for me, like what a really cool 24 hours of just love and just
Yeah.
truly people being with people.
Yeah, I love that because we talked about like love and compassion. And, it's interesting because at first, when we were first talking, we were joking a little bit because Myra's had a lot of people in her home. Every weekend, it seems like
Mm-hmm.
somebody's there, right? And so when this came up yesterday, unexpectedly, again, a weekend that you finally thought, okay, it's just going to be me and the fam, you had an opportunity though. Like we always have an opportunity of
Mm-hmm.
how are we going to approach this? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's a gift. Like nothing is happening without divinity. Like, you're talked about like your ex-sister-in-law could have called 50 other people, right? There
Mm-hmm.
were other avenues, but for whatever reason, they were drawn to call you. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
not coincidental.
Yeah.
And for you to really recognize the way that these kids bring joy to other people and to yourself and probably to the interaction with your own children,
Oh yeah.
like that's beautiful because sometimes people could just stay in that other energy of this is a disruption in my life. This is annoying. This
Mm-hmm.
has is irritating. Like, and then you don't see that aspect of things
Mm-hmm.
because you're in that other space so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something that you're getting and they're getting from this relationship
Mm-hmm.
that continues to bring them into your sphere for sure. And it's really being in that sense of flow. And I love that, you recognize the energy of their love and their kindness and that other woman even called it out for you. Like I love
Yeah.
that because I always call those little confirmations.
Mm.
Like sometimes the universe is just continuing to give you confirmation of what you need to see.
Yeah.
It's just us recognizing it. So I love that story. I know I was telling Myra I've been really tuning into the energy of Archangel Metatron and using his energy and letting him come through me and through my voice really as a channel. When I was just asking this morning, what topic should we talk about? Because really, and he just talked about how love and compassion will be the only foundation that's going to be successful going forward. Like the energies are shifting right now, and you can see it. Like, meaning that things that were built on patriarchal foundations of money and greed and very structured energies of control will no longer be. They just can't be sustained in this new energy that we're starting to really move into. And so just thinking about not only I think about businesses, even businesses that are not built on that will no longer be. But I think about our relationships, right? And like, how do we bring love and compassion into every interaction that we have? And sometimes it's difficult you, because people can be dicks. Like, they just
Oh
can,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it can be sometimes challenging when somebody isn't too kind to you for you to have
Mm-hmm.
kindness back. You want to be reactive, but what happens is then you match their energy, you drop your vibration down, and that's part of the problem is that reactive energy. I was working with a client yesterday talking about the same topic of being in calm, assertive energy. There's one individual in their lives that's challenging right now, very controlling, and a lot of times they let their energy go into being more passive, right? Just like letting that individual kind of control the narrative and kind of shrinking. And people like that, I call them predators, and I don't That's just the truth, right? They they find individuals who they feel that they can control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so until this individual can stand in their own space in that calm assertive energy, they will continue. Even if this person leaves the situation, another person similar will come in unless they're able to shift the
Yeah.
vibration of themselves. So I think about that because when I talk to this individual, they say a lot of, like, I think they think they're being in love and compassion, but they're not. They're not love and compassion for themselves. That's
Yeah.
the problem. Because when you love yourself truly, you don't allow somebody else to speak to you in that way. You don't allow
Yeah.
somebody else to control you in that way. That's not a sense of love for self. So I think exploring that first, because I fully believe, like for you, it also goes to a testament of the work you've done on loving yourself because you were able to see love in a whole different way than maybe what you would have 3 years ago, or two
Yeah.
years ago.
Why you just the last line you just said, it popped in my head. I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No, 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 no.
in the car last night, I don't know what it was, but Magnolia and my niece are speaking to each other, and I don't know what came up. It was like, do you love me more than something? I don't know. It was
Hmm.
little girls
Cute.
talking. It was cute.
Yeah.
But my niece said, well, I don't love you more than Jesus. And Magnolia said, well, I love myself first, the most. And I'm like driving, like, oh my God. And I said, and I was like, you're right. You're right. And I said, because Jesus, the energy of Jesus, would want you to love yourself. He wants you to love yourself. He wants you to take care of yourself and to love yourself so much and so deeply that you are doing the best for you, that you are doing the best for others too, through the love of self. And it was just so interesting because I was just like, okay, and I'm just listening to this conversation between these little girls. And, you've got one individual who's very indoctrinated right now with organized religion. That is the band-aid, I think. No, no, don't get me wrong. I think that her mother is really actually working through some things. Really, in this moment, this person is probably the best version of herself I've seen in years. And there are some little glimpses and peaks of self-awareness too, but I don't know how much of self this person loves or how much they're deflecting it through their relationship with religion in this moment, truly. So a
Hmm.
lot of that is being projected onto their children. And so you've got one individual that's having this conversation, and then I heard Magnolia's response, and it was just really cool. Like, it was so cool. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to listen, and then I
Uh-huh.
filled in, like with the conversation, and then that was that. But it was just so interesting to hear the dialogue between sense of self and the love of other, like, or loving yourself because of something else. It was just a very, and then this is between like a 6-year old and a 9-year old.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I love that. It's interesting. I was just listening to a podcast from a guy who they call him NDEs, like he had died and crossed over and then he
Mm,
came back, but like he had died, like he was dead for an extended amount of time. And he talks about, being in on the other side or heaven or whatever term you want to use, like just spending that entire time. Time doesn't really exist there, so whatever that looked like for him with Jesus, and Jesus talking to him about what he needed to know and giving him some messages for him to share, because knowing he was going to come back into human form,
mhm,
he wasn't going to stay over there. But one of the things that he talked about is exactly that. Jesus is like, my whole purpose of coming to the world, being in human form,
mhm,
was to teach people to love themselves unconditionally and
mhm,
give love unconditionally. But he
mhm,
talked about loving yourself first and
mhm,
fully. And the other cool thing he said, I think about religion, and I'm not, there's a place for it for some people, right? However, I think a lot of it is through, they use spiritual law through the lens of control. They use it through the lens of condemnation, meaning you have to do X, Y, and Z, or you can't do this. And the one thing that he talked about that Jesus said is, no, no one needs anything to reach me. There's no rules. Like, it's just from your heart connecting to this
mhm,
energy. That's all you have to do. Like, you don't
mhm,
need a go between. You don't need baptism. Like that's kind of what he was talking about. Like, just talk to me through your heart energy. That's it. That's all you have to do to connect to Jesus. Like, Jesus is the one telling him these things, you know?
Yeah.
And some of the messages that he was meant to bring back. But the whole reason that he really didn't want to stay, because he said it was so amazing. Like, it was like, he said, I can't give you words of like what it felt like to be on the other side or in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything was so vibrant and free, and there was just love. But he could feel, because of he was in that energy, he could feel the true sorrow of his wife, and he couldn't
Mm-hmm.
leave that. Like, he couldn't, you know, he's like, I've never felt that before. Somebody's true sorrow and just
Mm-hmm.
devastation. And so that's what caused him to ask Jesus if he could come back into human form. And it was really interesting because I think about that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about love and compassion and feeling empathetic for people,
Mm-hmm.
but do we ever really truly feel the raw energy or the emotion of how they feel? Because I do when I do energy work, and it helps me with compassion, right? Because I do feel that a lot when I work with clients. When you know, I think about the saying, you know, walking in somebody else's
Mm-hmm.
shoes, or putting your, you know, that kind of space. But so often, we're so often in our own ego and in our own stories, our own victim
Yeah.
stories, that we struggle to allow ourselves to really express that fully.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I love that you brought up Jesus, and now I know why I found that episode, because it was kind of off the beaten path for me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, I agree, and it's so interesting because I actually shared, I think we talked about it on a podcast a couple episodes ago. Honestly, if anyone ever did like a drinking game of any fluid of choice, and we say it on the last podcast or a past podcast, they would be like, okay, score one for bingo or whatever. But it was, you had listened to a podcast episode or an episode from, and it was about past lives, actually, or not past
Yeah,
lives, excuse me. It was about crossing or near death experiences. I'm just
because I'm
using that as a
obsessed with
term.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, they find me all the time.
Yeah, well, I actually I had remembered it because it really stuck out to me because it was one about a lady and she was a pastor's wife, and it's very it mirrors to the T of my niece's grandmother. So my
Mm,
ex-sister-in-law's mom, who's a part of this spinning thing. There's a whole lot going on here. So when you
yeah.
shared that episode with me, then in this episode, the lady basically is like, well, I've given my life to these people. Like, I'm a pastor's wife. Like, I've done all these things and I've done nothing but service and compassion. But in that experience, she was alone and she wasn't with Jesus or what she imagined because, you know, at that time, she was told, well, you never loved yourself. You didn't actually, this wasn't from an authentic space. Like, you never loved yourself. You poured everything out, but you deflected from how you actually felt towards yourself. And like, that's what you need to now learn to go back and do, you know, and that's a very abridged version of the
I
story.
remember it now that you're talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it stuck with me because in this case, in my personal life, this individual, you know, the grandma, she is this person to the T, like goes and cleans churches at like 6 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 3 at night. I mean, like it's bizarro. For me personally, I can't relate, but it's what they feel that they need to do in their obligation and their duty. Well, about 6 months ago, she had a seizure and I was not shocked. And then she's told, you can't drive. You can't do anything actually now. And I'm like, yeah, because your body is saying hello. Like, you've literally done nothing, you know, and then it's all
Mm,
neurological because she's suppressed a lot of emotions and thoughts and feelings to continue
yeah.
this persona. So there's a whole lot of unpacking with that. But I
Hmm.
really bring this up too because I actually was randomly in the drive through line of picking my child up. Yes, they're drive throughs, even in
Oh,
preschool. They bring them to you. You hold
they
little
bro. Wow.
signs. Yeah, you hold up a
That's
little
new.
sign here and they like walk them out. It's so cute. And then like Draco sees the car and he's like, you know, it's precious. But I was in the
Love
line
that.
and I was talking to my grandmother and she's 89 and I brought the story up, you know, and she identifies with the Mormon religion and she's very dedicated to this religion, but we've had some really amazing conversations because see she also grew up Southern Baptist and now her I mean and those are not our conversations don't that doesn't equal our conversations, but she did grow up in another faith and another religion and her sisters are either married to preachers or their sons are preachers. Okay, so very heavy, like she's the only
Yeah.
one that
Yeah.
joined this
Gotcha.
group. You get it? Like, so I bring that up for that reason.
Yeah.
But with her, nothing's off the table. I actually feel I relate very much to my grandmother. I feel like we're very similar people. I relate to her love for others. She really does love all of her grandchildren unconditionally. I can tell you that there is no conditions to these to the love that she has. It has no bounds, even when a parent isn't speaking to the grandchild or whatever. Or and she loves her children too. But I know for her fact for the grandchildren. But this woman is amazing. I love her. She's gone through a lot of things. She's a very resilient person. But I shared with her this story and of the woman.
Mhm.
And she goes, "You're right. You have to love yourself. Like you cannot." And you know, I'm was expecting I don't know what I expected, honestly.
Mhm.
And she didn't even like question the story, you know, like she was like, "You're right." And she said, "Because how can you, if you don't love yourself, how can you love others?" And she's like, "It's all about the sense of self." And we're having this really great conversation. And her sister, right now, one of them, she's, my nanny was one of six girls. I think it's, yeah, six. And one of them now has dementia, but she was married. She was a preacher's wife, and she often talked about how trapped she felt. And she didn't want to do these things because she just felt like she had to. And my nanny brought it up herself. She's like, you know, her mind left her because she couldn't handle the emotions or deal with reality or deal with like you know we talk what we talk about all the time, like when you suppress and when you try to hide or when you don't deal with things or when you don't express. She didn't express herself. She was in a loveless marriage. She didn't love what she was doing. It was just out of duty, out of obligation. It was a very, she wanted to leave the marriage. And she, like the way my nanny says it, is like, well, she lost her mind because she couldn't deal with it. And so
Mhm.
she was bringing that up too, you know. So it was a very great conversation, and it was really interesting to hear it from her perspective, where you know it was like, yeah, she's like, I agree, you know, and it was no doctrine, no laws of anything needed to play into the
Yeah.
conversation. She's like, yeah, duh, you know, like so it was a really cool conversation, and so I feel like you know for her, she's lived through a lot, you know. I mean, she'll turn 90 in January and she's seen a lot of things. She's seen a lot of people and she's seen a lot of experiences that have shaped her and in her own personal life. And she agreed. She's like, it's the sense of self, it's loving yourself. And that's what, you know, this energy of Jesus would want too. She even agreed with that.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome. I love that.
yeah.
And it's interesting because, I wrote down the word obligation. Like, and that's, I think, what happens sometimes is we get indoctrinated with
Hmm.
thought or whatever and being told this is how you have to behave
Hmm.
to get X, right? To get
Yeah.
into heaven or to get this or whatever, to have eternal life. But when you do anything, like service is a beautiful thing, to serve others, to serve yourself, it is powerful, it is beautiful. But when you do it through the lens of obligation versus your
Hmm.
true desire, those are two separate things,
Yeah.
right? And that's the issue, right? And it's
Hmm.
interesting because like the lady you're speaking about, you think about, dementia and it's like she gets to live in a whole other world
Oh,
because
yeah.
she never allowed herself to live in authenticity. It was
Hmm.
all through the lens of duty or control, or that
Hmm.
it's a constrictive energy. One of the clients I worked with yesterday too, we did an ancestral energy healing where we go back 7 generations. We were working on the masculine side yesterday, so down the father's line. And it was really interesting. Her father is been in a structured religion his whole life,
Hmm.
and he's getting older. And I could feel in his energy that he's questioning it.
Hmm.
He's questioning, like, and the reason he's questioning it, it's too late now. Like, he's not going to shift out of it. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm suggesting. But in his soul energy, he's questioning because he's done so much, but it's all been because of obligation, not
Hmm.
from his heart. Oh, and I was talking to her about that energy I could feel, and that causes people to have fear. That's fear
Hmm.
energy, right? When you
Hmm.
boil it down, you have fear or love. And just letting her know that when that happens, when they transition can be a little more difficult because they're not sure within their own heart. But
Hmm.
again, going back to there's no love of self there either.
Yeah.
So when these acts of service are happening, it's all through the lens of requirements, obligations, societal pressures. This is what I'm supposed to do, not what I
Mhm.
desire to do. And so, going back into love and compassion, everybody's purpose is different, journey is different. But tuning into when your heart is telling you to do something, acting on it for yourself, not when you feel a sense of obligation. Like, it was interesting. My mom reached out to me a few weeks ago, and my cousin has my aunt living with her, and she's
Mhm.
in the last stages of her life. And my cousin had put a GoFundMe thing out there for saying they may lose their home or the apartment they live in. And my mom's texting me like, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" And like in the moment, I was like, "You're putting an obligation on me." Like
Mhm.
I was irritated a little bit. Like this
Yeah.
is not my responsibility. Like
Mhm.
or if I felt that it was, I would act on it. But I
Yeah.
didn't. You know what I mean? Like, but I had somebody telling me, like, are you going to act on this?
Mhm.
And when it comes from an outside source, I really try to tune into my own heart because I'd seen it and
Mhm.
I talked to myself, my higher self, and I'm like, no, this isn't something I'm supposed to worry about
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
help with, not at this point. But and then somebody else brings it back to me, I was like, why are you making this my obligation?
Yeah.
If you feel in your heart you need to do something, go for it.
Yeah.
But, so how often do we have those little scenarios come up where somebody in our lives is kind of prodding us to even do something and we're not fully comfortable doing it,
Oh,
and
all the
it's
time.
taken me years to have enough awareness. Tressa 10 years ago would have just jumped on the bandwagon of what do I got to do?
Yeah. No, I love that you're bringing that up too, because when you were speaking, actually monetary giving came to my mind. To be honest, that was exactly what I was going to next in my brain, because I think about the disconnect and flow of that too. And up until last year, and I'm not perfect in it yet, it's still something that I'm learning to not jump on, like, and how we're going to react to these things. But literally all for a very long time, and especially up until last year, or at least, yeah, I lived in a state of obligation. Like it was, and a lot of it was from outside sources, or like, oh, okay, this person can't get back to school shoes, so you have to buy their shoes. Or if this person can't do senior pictures, then you have to pay for their senior pictures. Or this person needs their hair done, so I went and bought a gift certificate because they needed their hair done. Well, guess what? They still haven't made the appointment a year later. So like that's
Yeah.
just a way, you know what I mean? That's just the
Yeah, I do.
confirmation of like what the,
Yeah.
and it goes back, I can snowball even with that too. And that really is a disruption of flow too, and a flow of abundance and a flow of where you feel this obligation. So you do these things. So that's an imbalance of also receiving. And so I, I was not aware of that imbalance. Now in my awareness of the obligation and duty, it's not there anymore. And so even yesterday, I had to really reflect in my heart, like, do I need to say yes to taking these children? Because again, that's still obligation, right? Like it's my obligation. Duh, I'm being asked, like I have to do this. But when I sat with it and, after I went through I knew that no, this is something that I do need to do. Like this
Yeah.
is, I'm authentically committing to this experience, right? And it was a beautiful experience. If I was doing it from an inauthentic lens, it would have been a very bad experience. It wouldn't have been the same. It would have been a very different outcome. And now I'm aware of those differences. But yeah, and I have a lot of outside sources, and I feel like that's a mom thing. I don't know. And I know, and our moms are very in the same generation. And so
Mhm.
I know a lot of it was appearance and duty and obligation to say these things. And it's very interesting because, like, my mom and your mom didn't grow up with technology, but like they're really, or I mean, I'm assuming your mom's this way, and I feel like you've shared it before too. They're like very tied to the perception of internet and like Facebook and like
Mhm.
what are you doing on this GoFundMe, or what are you doing on this post, or what are you saying to this person, or whatever. And it's very interesting because it shows a lot of like the doctrination of the obligation, duty, appearance, like the way that you're looking to the outside world. But I don't really know if my mom would ever really tell that person happy birthday. Maybe she's like that, but I don't know. Or like, would she really do this? Or would she really say that? Or would she really act upon these things? And I think about that because those are a lot of the outside influences that I personally get in questioning of should I be helping or doing or whatever. And, I, even with yesterday evening, I had an experience where I was being yelled at by one of the parental figures in these children's lives for having their kids. I was just laughing. I'm like, okay, whatever. But I did respond because they felt they were in the dark. And I said, you know what? It's not my responsibility to tell you where they are when it's between you and this other person in this co-parenting space.
Right.
You should just like be happy that they're safe. Like, I'm not the person to be upset about. And then when I said that, their tone changed, the conversation changed. But I don't know how comfortable I would have been saying that a while ago. I don't know, but it's in that moment of I'm not going to feel obligated to be sad, guilty, upset, worried for this person, mad at whatever. I'm not going to feed into the fire that doesn't exist, right? It's not my responsibility. And it wasn't my responsibility to be the communication line. And if they cared or needed to make a different action, then they would not be in the location they were. They would be presently here in this location because they were not even in the same, they were 2 hours
Yeah, if it
away.
was that
You know what I
important,
mean?
they
If
would
it
have
was
just
that
been
important,
home. Yeah.
yeah. So, like, nah, I ain't going to have the
Yeah.
conversation. And like, so I feel like in my love of self, in my discovery, am I truly trying to be in flow and truly trying to be in the balance of authentic giving and then receiving, and what that means for me, the obligations, the responsibility, the burden. I guess I think burden's a good word to use there, like the guilt of it, the manipulation of obligation, or the perception just has started to really melt away for me. Like, I just don't lean into it anymore and I don't give into it anymore. And I can, being aware of my body, feel it in my body when it's not for me to play into.
Yeah, I agree with that. A couple of things I wanted to just talk about that you said was it is, you do block flow. Like, when we think about money, people have such deep belief structures around money and a lot of energy blocks around
Mhm.
money because you and I were raised by baby boomers. Like,
Yeah.
and so a lot of the dialogue that I grew up with was you got to work hard for money. Money doesn't grow on
Hmm.
trees. Grew up pretty poor, I guess.
Hmm.
I mean, I was clothed and fed and everything. I wasn't homeless, but there wasn't a lot of extra
Yeah.
money for things, right? My mom tells me a story when I was a little girl. I was in the grocery store with her, and this is how young I was starting to get. Well, my belief structure was being built,
Yeah.
right? She said, I wanted something. I told my mom I wanted this, but then I turned to her as a little girl, like 3 or 4, she said,
Hmm.
and I said, but you can't afford that, can you? And she's like, no, I can't. Like, I was knowing that
Hmm.
at such a young age, and it's taken me a lot of work to break my own generational
Hmm.
energy around
Hmm.
money, those cycles. But to your point, like, if you give out of the sense of obligation or the sense of guilt, and I've done it, that blocks your flow of money. Like, it
Hmm.
blocks the receiving because giving and receiving all have a balance, right? But if I feel inspired through my heart and my desire is to give the money, then that's completely different, you
Yeah.
know? And that's why I think I was this when my mom talked to me about this and I felt that energy of obligation come
Hmm.
in, I knew, like, this isn't, no, this is not
Yeah.
your space. And it's funny you talk about that gift certificate for the hair. With my energy work practice, I have people reach out and want to buy people gift certificates, and
Hmm.
that's fine. But 90% of the time, they're not used
Yeah.
because you can't want something for somebody else that they don't want
Hmm.
for themselves.
Yeah.
And the stuff I do, you got to want to look at yourself. Like,
Yeah.
it's people don't show up on my doorstep because they're thriving.
Yeah.
That's not why they seek me out. So it kind of cracks me up when I just like, I'll sell the gift certificate and like, in my monkey mind, I'm like, well, cha-ching, I just got some cash for doing absolutely nothing.
I
Not that I
know.
don't want
Yeah.
to work with these people,
No.
but they don't use them.
Yeah.
You can't wish or desire something for somebody else.
No, you can't. It's so funny because, like, you're totally right. And I remember what's really funny about it too is I remember I thought about even getting a certificate for someone that did eventually become your client, but you were like, sure, and I remember being like, okay.
You
But
betcha.
yeah, I've learned my lesson, like I can't. And what's so funny is like even with the hair, for example, like they wanted it too, but I can't make them.
But they didn't want it or they
They
would have
didn't.
used it. So
No,
they're people,
exactly.
that's the lie. That's
Hmm.
the lie you tell yourself
Yeah.
sometimes, right? And so, because if you truly want something, you make
Yeah.
it happen. You're going to find a way when your
Oh yeah.
energy's truly drawn into it.
Nope.
So anyway, anyone need a gift certificate, ring me up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, just before we end, because we're getting up on our time, but just really thinking about this topic and really first tuning into yourself. Are you
Hmm.
giving yourself true love? Are you truly loving who you are? How are you
Hmm.
speaking about yourself in your mind? We all have thoughts going on in
Hmm.
our mind all day, and a lot of it is an ego energy. And ego energy is we think about ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
We're all a little bit
Yeah.
narcissistic at some point, but what's the dialogue like
Hmm.
around yourself? Start there. Start to recognize it because one of the things I have a complete conviction around is you will never change something you can't acknowledge. And that sometimes that's the hardest thing for people to do is
Yep.
to acknowledge the truth of where they're at.
Hmm.
So
I
start there.
totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, keep your vibrations way high.
And stay sassy.